Hi, I'm James McGuire, Managing Editor of Datamation, and today we're having a wide-ranging conversation about technology and culture. Along the way, we'll be talking about diversity and inclusion and how to use data for the social good. To discuss all that, I'm joined by a very special guest. With me today is Gajen Kandiah, Chief Executive Officer of Hitachi Vantara. Gajen, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. And I've got, all sorts of interesting questions for you, but I think even before that, there's a piece of news this week that's worth drilling down into. Hitachi announced that it is acquiring Global Logic. The company is based in San Jose. They do digital engineering services. I read the release and I thought, is that an IoT play, a data analytics play, or some combination thereof? I mean, what was your strategy in acquiring Global Logic?
Software is eating the world. It's a software play in many ways. I know it
Mm-hmm.
enables many other, it certainly enables an IoT play, the edge play,
Right.
the data-driven play, if you will. But in essence, what it is for industrial companies and enterprises, enterprise organizations to compete. Increasingly software is becoming a core requirement for them,
Right.
and it's true for us as Hitachi, as an industrial company, but it's also true for our clients. And as we were looking for a set of capabilities that could enhance and accelerate and catalyze us as well as our clients, we identified Global Logic, and we're very excited with their core capability, their delivery, the extensive delivery capability, their software engineering capabilities, and most importantly, their ability to work closely with clients to identify new sources of revenue and then build the software that enables them to go and capture it. And as you look at that, irrespective of whether it's IoT or edge or core software, when we look at that and we look at our needs versus as well as our clients' needs, it was a perfect fit. Taking our industrial capabilities, some of our trains, like the bullet trains, are some of the most instrumented products in the world. But how do you capture that data? How do you make sense of it? How do you derive benefit and new value from that data? All of that requires software and data engineering. And this is one of the areas that we think a company like Global Logic could help us. So super excited about it.
All right. So we'll definitely have to keep track of that.
Yes.
I think one thing that's really interesting about your story, you began your current position as CEO last summer. So it's right smack dab in the middle of a global pandemic. I mean, you're managing 10,000 employees. And of course, the company has a very complex product mix, storage, data analytics, hyperconverged infrastructure. So, very complicated products. How's it going so far? And do you ever get a chance to relax?
It is going really, really well. I have to say though, at the beginning, it was complex, right? Starting a new role in a completely virtual model, not having the opportunity. I probably met my boss once, during the interview process, right? And the interview process was pretty lengthy, so I haven't met my team, so getting into the company, getting to understand the company, the culture, the team, my leadership team, etc. That took some doing, that took some work, heavy lifting, if you will. Lots of interviews, lots of one-on-ones, all on a flat screen. But once we've gotten through that, it's actually been excellent. I really enjoyed getting to know the culture of Hitachi, getting to know the Japanese business model, how they approach things, the culture of the Japanese culture, and how it's permeated into our company. And the other thing, which I found to be extremely refreshing, access to clients. Clients are able to talk to you at any time because they're also operating in the same model. I don't need to get on a 5-hour flight for a 1-hour meeting. You get it. It takes 15, 20 minutes, and it's both personal and professional in its own way, because we're all stuck at home. So that's been also a sort of a revelation. So it's actually been really, really fun, and I've really enjoyed it so far.
Interesting. So speaking of data, I mean, Hitachi Vantara certainly is a data company. I think the importance of data and maximizing the value of data has really come to the forefront these days. A lot of companies have gathered a lot of data, like oceans of data. I think sometimes they don't know how to get the most from it. What about some success stories? A company that really has succeeded with data? Specifically, perhaps something along the lines of powering social good or maybe an environmental cause? I mean, do you have any examples of that?
So we do, I'll echo your point. And I think, one of the things that we've gotten really excited about is the concept of data-driven outcomes, right? By company, by industry, by segment.
Right.
But, the reality, and you nailed it, is, data is growing exponentially. And our ability outside of a select few companies that you keep hearing about all the time, good deeds, bad deeds, you name it,
Right.
is extremely low, right? It's like down to 1% of the data we capture is actually used to drive some sort of insight.
Right.
And so we think there's a huge market there. But more importantly, along the lines of sort of powering good with data, so the work that we are doing with the Rainforest Connection around deforestation is something that is truly, both meaningful, powerful, and close to my heart. We are working with them to identify, and I would say predict, a deforestation, an illegal deforestation event using data, using sound, and be able to rapidly respond to someone that may be preparing to cut down a forest somewhere in the world, and get the law enforcement there ahead of time, even before the event occurs. And I think that's just a small example of how you could use data to power good and truly, change some of the environmental elements that we have been talking about. And I've been super proud of the work that we are doing with the Rainforest Connection.
Interesting. You've also talked about helping Hitachi Vantara skate where the puck is going, which I think is really tough in today's world to figure out where things are going. The marketplace is really complex. What does it mean to you to skate where the puck is going in a strategic sense in terms of tech trends? How does that work for you?
It's today, in today's world, especially kind of with a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel around the pandemic,
right.
We're living in a world that business schools do not have models for, right? So in many cases, people are coming along who have great strategists, right, but have never dealt with this type of a situation. So it is super important for us to listen to our customers, listen to market signals, and derive the to the point of where is the puck going from that process, right? So it becomes much more client intensive. And a lot more listening intensive, and to some extent, and my former bosses would hate me saying this, gut driven, right? Instinctively, where do you think, because the data isn't going to tell you where the market is headed, because it's sort of somewhat of a bit of a rear view mirror for us, and there's no predictive data. So in many ways, one thing we do see is this preponderance of data, right? Data really exploding, and the pandemic has only accelerated that. The second thing is the movement to the cloud. The third is the coming together of both the infrastructure and the products and the digitization of them, right? Call it the digital twin equivalent, but into the future. And so when we look at all of that, right, what we do see is foundational for that is data, right? And again, back to the point that only very few companies know how to utilize data for the outcomes that they want to derive. We see our clients sort of either in trying to catch up with data and how to utilize data, in some cases able to make some meaningful sense of data, and in very few cases capable of deriving new value from data. And we think as a data company, based on where we come from storage, we have the opportunity to help our clients on that journey. And that's sort of where we expect the puck to go, and that's where we want to play.
Is there a sense that the customers are saying, don't just sell me pieces, sell me the whole solution? I mean, I know there's a lot going on there with Hitachi Vantara's product line, enterprise storage, Kubernetes, a lot of possible pieces. Are companies saying, hey, help me put the whole thing together? Is that what you see out there?
That's, again, it's another great example. That's exactly what we're hearing. They don't want the product, they want the solution, or better yet, the outcome. And in many ways, if you come back and sort of say, hey, Hitachi Vantara, you have all of these components. Well, the piece we were missing was the ability to stitch it all together through software and
Right.
therefore global logic becomes a player in that context as well, right? So there is the what can we do for our front businesses and what we do in the industry, but also
Mhm.
what can we do for our clients within the Vantara family. And so yes, absolutely, they want to see more solutions. They want us to co-create with them, right? This is no
Mm.
longer an
Mhm.
opportunity to go with an outcome or a specific solution, but
Right.
rather listen, understand, co-create, and build and replicate if possible.
Yeah, we've mentioned the pandemic, and I think one of the really key issues is the pandemic has actually accelerated data, or certainly the need for data. What have you seen in the marketplace in terms of how COVID and the pandemic has actually driven the need and the adoption of data?
Look, data has been around for a while, as you
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
and people have tried various different ways of maximizing the impact of data or the impact to the business through data.
Mhm.
Pandemic wise, I think we're all online now,
Right.
and
Right.
so everyone from your grocer to your food delivery to the restaurant to the
Mhm.
bank
Right.
are all trying to figure out how to make it be more engaged with the consumer, and with the businesses, right? And try to sort of fulfill their needs. And in order to do that, they need to understand their data, understand what the needs are, and then apply it appropriately. Whether you're a bank like a Rabobank trying to get into the
Mhm.
e-commerce world, right? Or
Mhm.
if you're somebody like the American Heart Association who's trying to say,
Mm.
how do I better leverage data to solve some of the ailments of COVID-19, either before, during, or after, right? And how do I
Right.
maximize the application of data to be able to better understand and better predict and then better treat?
Mm.
So we're seeing on the using those as two edges, if you will. But also data isn't there's video data now as well, right? Where you're
Right.
starting
Right.
to make sure that are you really maintaining 6 foot distance, right? Across
Mhm.
any location, whether it be a building, a grocery store, a railway station, right? Your temperature tracking, reporting, right? So we're capturing so much data.
Right.
What do we do with it, right? And how do you do it in a way that isn't intrusive from a privacy perspective,
Uh-huh.
but still meaningful from a safety and security perspective, right? And I think
Right.
we are seeing a lot of that as in terms of how clients are approaching data and how they're looking to use data. And again, it's sort of somewhat, I say this to our team, this market is coming to us at Hitachi Vantara. We don't have
Mm.
to chase it because we came from data. And so we're actually quite happy to have the market come to us and embrace it and be a part of the journey of trying to solve some of these problems that are data driven.
I know that part of your strategy and your life has been shaped by the experience of being an immigrant. Remarkably, when you were young, your family was forced to immigrate to the US to flee a civil war. I think what's so fascinating about the immigrant experience in the US is how productive it's been. I read a report recently that said something like 45% of Fortune 500 companies were founded by immigrants or their children. How has it influenced your experience being an immigrant to the US?
It's funny, right? When I first came here, we were like, it was the only thing we knew about the US was, either Charlie's Angels or Sesame Street, right? So,
Okay.
and I'm sure you can
Yeah.
relate to sort of, we,
Oh, sure.
the two programs, right? We were watching black and white TV when I left
Yep.
Sri Lanka.
Yep.
So, so you expect that when you arrive here, right? And you end
Mhm.
up sort of, you're immigrant, you have a couple of bucks in your pocket and you're in a neighborhood that you can afford, right? It is what it
Right.
is. Um,
Sure.
so and being the land of opportunity really comes to the fore, right? And
Mm.
especially going through the political season of last year and so on and so forth, right?
Mhm.
I strongly believe that this is the country that gave me the opportunity to explore, push, learn, understand, right? If you were
Mm.
willing to work hard, and we come from a family that works hard, a
Mhm.
country of people that works really hard for what you want,
Mhm.
this country gave me the opportunities. I had a really strong foundation with my parents, father being a military officer from the army, my mother being
Mhm.
a Montessori teacher,
Mm.
and being an only child, right? So there was a
Mhm.
lot of focus on me, and there was some
Mm.
disappointment that I never turned into a doctor, a lawyer, or an
there's
engineer, but
there's
became a
still time,
consultant.
Gajen. You can still be a doctor. Come on.
But that aside, I think that the work ethic, the ability, my dad, I think, my dad has always been one of these people about listen, 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 right? Always
Hmm.
listen, because you need to find your own voice, but listen first, right? And so this concept of, you have 2 ears and one mouth, right? So you have to listen twice as much as you speak. Was
Yes.
something that was ingrained in me from the early days, and it's been a part of the journey, and it's been a hugely helpful part of the journey, right? To
Hmm.
first identify who I am and what I bring to the table,
Hmm.
then to open up and speak about it. And then as I have had the opportunity to lead teams and companies at this point, to ensure that I'm giving my team the opportunity to voice their opinion, pull it out, understand, connect the dots together, and then
Hmm.
set the path forward. So it's been fantastic.
Hmm.
Though the beginning wasn't that great, getting to where we
Right.
have been has been great.
I think the part of your story that I find most fascinating is that you've talked about battling imposter syndrome. What's really amazing about that is you've come so far. You're the CEO of a major company, so you've actually you battled imposter syndrome. If you have, perhaps we all have. And are there any tips for lessening this?
Yeah, to me, I still have it, right?
Really? Okay, to this day. All right.
Yeah, even to this
I,
day,
yeah.
it translates interestingly to competitors today, right? Like there is
Hmm.
this constant the thing about, you're always one eye is looking backwards, right?
Yes.
There's this the pinching yourself to, am I really doing this? Is still
Right.
there, right? And I
Hmm.
feel like if I lose that, I feel like I'm going to lose my edge, right? In
Yeah.
many ways, the imposter
Right.
syndrome has given me an ability to stay sharp and stay
Yep.
focused and
Yes.
stay with the market, right? Not get comfortable, right? And I
Hmm.
think so that, so if others have it, I would say don't lose it, right? Try to make
Mm.
use of it. Try to use it
Yeah.
as an advantage.
Hmm.
And either whether it be competitive or in terms of what you want to do for your business or how you lead your people, I think there is an edge that it gives you that I think is really important. And not, don't get too caught up in it, but certainly, there's a way to use
Yeah.
your advantage.
You want to avoid complacency in
Yes,
essence.
absolutely.
Yes. Right.
Yes.
To wrap up our conversation, I think it's important to talk about this idea that you've stressed, which is leading with inclusion. What does that mean to you, and how does that shape your approach?
You know, first of all, I said we can all do a lot more around inclusion.
Hmm.
I think that it's a shame that we continue to have to talk about diversity and inclusion on an ongoing basis.
Hmm.
But that said, you know, I have found that diverse and inclusive teams tend to be far more effective and successful than sort of the typical executive
Right.
committee or boardroom
Yes.
that you would see,
Right.
because I think that there's a sense of balance between market economics, how aggressive do you want to be, the environment, safety, security, privacy. There's a lot of things that matter in today's world that didn't in the past.
Hmm.
And the ability to balance all of that in the context of a P&L that you operate is a critical thing that a chief executive needs to do. And I
Mm.
think to do that, you need a diverse team and you need an inclusive team.
Right.
And that to me, the diversity of thought that team brings to the table helps you balance the approach and the strategy that you set for your company. And it factors into how you navigate, right? Because
Mm.
I
Hmm.
think intelligence and empathy are both important, and you don't always find one person with both.
Right.
And again, back to this notion of inclusion, I think however you cut it, I think the more diverse your team is, the more inclusive your leadership style is, the better
Hmm.
it is for your business. And so that's why I've been stressing inclusion.
I think it seems like one of the best things about our current era, for all its problems, is that idea is very much on the rise, and I think companies will benefit as they embrace that.
And I think, Jim, that the pandemic actually has accelerated the opportunity
Mm.
for us to bring people who we may not have had access to,
Oh.
right? Who may have gone off, to raise their child or whatever it may be, and was
Mhm.
not quite sure how to get back to work. With clients being more open to your working from wherever you are, work from anywhere, you
Right.
now have access to a pool of talent, a very diverse pool of talent that
Hmm.
can now become a part of this journey. And I think that is something we should absolutely take advantage of.
Interesting. Okay. Gajen, I think you've said it. You've got a very interesting story to be sure, and you certainly have some challenges ahead of you with big markets. Best of luck with it, and hopefully you'll come back with it and talk with us again sometime. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been fantastic, and it's great to getting to know you as well. And I look forward to coming back and talking about some of our successes, or maybe not so many successes as we run into those.
Sounds great. Thank you very
Lovely.
much.
Great. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.